So step 8 is this. It says, we made a list of all the persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Seems pretty simple, right? Probably because it is pretty simple. There's not a lot of meat to this step, but it's the foundation moving forward with the steps. The verse that goes with this is Luke 6:31. It says, do to others as you would have them do to you. So when I got to this step, it was a breather. But at the same time, I was anxious with this step. And the reason I was anxious is because at this point, you're kind of going back to step 4. Step 4 is all the good and the bad that you've done in your life. And the reason you go back to that, because it helps you make this list of people that you're willing to make amends to. You see, you got to be willing. That's hard for a lot of us. I know going through the 8th step, looking back at my 4th step, and thinking about some of the people that I need to make amends to, I'm like, I'm not making amends to these people. I'm like, there's just no way. They don't deserve my forgiveness. Thank God for God, right? And a good sponsor. My sponsor talked me through this. Now, my sponsor was not a Christ follower. That doesn't mean he wasn't a spiritual guy. I took what he knew, and I incorporated that in my life to the truths that I knew, because I had a foundation in this well before I got with him. Now, he helped me along in my journey. We got to a point where he couldn't help me anymore. I needed more than what he could offer, right? Then I had to find other mentors. And I've done that within this church. But I had to be willing to make amends to those people, and so he helped me out with that. If you don't have a sponsor, one, you've messed up. If you're on this step and you don't have a sponsor, you need to go back 4 steps and get a sponsor and do step 4, which is taking a moral inventory of all the good and the bad that you've done. And then you don't get to pick and choose who you make amends to. It clearly says in this step, amends to them all. Not people we get to pick. Not people that I wanted to give amends to. No, all of them. Now, this was hard, right? Because not everyone wants to see your face again. You've wronged them in some way. Some people, I didn't want to see their face again because they didn't know I wronged them in some way. And so that's a whole different conversation, right? So you got people that don't know you've wronged. You got people that do know you wronged them. And you got people that it went both ways. They wronged you and you wronged them. And you're like, bygones be bygones. With this step, it is the foundation to move on to the next step. And we'll talk about that next month. The next step is going to make that amends with the person. Right? And we'll elaborate more, but making amends to someone is not simply going up to them and saying, hey, sorry, I was a jacked up person. That's not it. We've said sorry so many times in our addiction, people don't want to hear that. Making amends means you're making a change. And in order for people to see that change, they got to see you walk through that. Now, it could be a couple years, you run into someone. One of my favorite stories, and I can share this, I won't give any name. One of my favorite stories is one of my great friends. He needed to make amends to this lady that he was dating. At the time, they lived out west. He moved here to Tennessee. He was in a bookstore, killing some time, and lo and behold, this lady that he needed to make amends to so many years later was in that same bookstore. He was able to sit down, have a cup of coffee with her, and make that amends. Sometimes it takes time. We're very impatient people, aren't we? We live in a microwave society where we don't feel like taking the time to wait for the right opportunity to make amends. We want to do it. We want to do it now. We don't want to wait. There's people on my list that I've still not been able to go physically in person to make amends to because they don't want anything to do with me. You have to learn to be okay with that. You have to learn to be okay with that. The way you make amends with those people could be writing a letter, could be simply talking out loud to God and let him guide you through that. Or you could patiently wait and say, God, when the right opportunity presents itself, will you give me the eyes to see the person that I need to forgive at the time? So this step, you don't let off the pedal. You keep moving forward, but it's a great breather step. This is the first time where in the steps, it is not an inward focus. You see steps 1 through 7, you're focusing on yourself. It's very selfish steps, but it needs to be at the beginning. You need to be selfish early in your recovery because if you're not, you don't protect yourself. You can fall right back into the cycle, right back into those habits. Steps 1, 2, and 3, if you guys remember, is I can't, he can, so I'm going to let him. Step 4 is making that more inventory. Step 5 is confessing that inventory to yourself, to God, and another human being, right? 6 and 7 is removing your shortcomings and defects of character. So all this time you've been building up and working on yourself. This is the first time in the steps where you're finally looking at other people and not just at yourself. This is the first time in the steps where this is going to be a foundation to carry you on to the final 12 steps, right? Are you willing to make that amends to people? As I've been talking, I'm sure some of you, people have popped in your head that you're like, I really need to make amends to those people. I really need to be forgiven for the wrong that I've caused that person. Regardless if you've gone through the steps or not, whether you're working them or you're not, someone has popped in your head. If that person continues to be laid on your heart, you need to pray, hey, what do I need to do with this? Do I need to go have a conversation with that person? Do I need to go talk to them? Talk to God about it. You're like, if I talk to God about it, it's going to be this. God, I wish they were dead so I didn't have to go make amends to them. Just smite them right now. Just done. That doesn't work, okay? 1, God's not going to do that. 2, even if someone has passed, you still can make amends to them. It's just going to look different. It's going to be in a form of a letter, right? If you guys don't do this, this is a great practice. Writing a letter and then burning it. It's phenomenal. How many people do that out there? Not enough. I'm telling you, game changer. I would challenge anyone tonight, if you don't do that, test this out. It's the best way to get your emotions down, anger, frustrations, angst, anything, any unforgiveness you're holding on, and you're like, if I do this, it's going to hurt the other person. We don't want to hurt other people. Man, you write that thing in a letter and you just watch it. Just ashes just float away. You're just like, wow. I was holding on to a lot of stuff, right? It's not okay to hold on to all this stuff. It's not okay to harbor unforgiveness. A story in the Bible, we're going to be in Matthew 18. We're going to be in verse 21. So I'm going to beat you guys there because I cheated a little bit. 1, I knew where I was going. But 2, I marked my Bible too. I'll give you guys a second just to get there. But Matthew 18, verse 21. If you got Bibles, phones, whatever. If you have your phone and you don't have the YouVersion Bible app, what are you waiting for? Man, we are in the 21st century. That is the best thing to ever come out. Bible reads to you. Magical voices on there. I love it. Because your boy is not much of a reader, but man, I can listen all day. So Matthew 18:21, it's the parable of the unforgiven servant. We're going to start in 21. It says, Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? And Jesus answers him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. It says, therefore the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servant. You see, when he began to settle one, a servant was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children. Let me just say, this is a great guy. He's willing to keep the family together. Okay? Kudos to him. Because I don't know if I would have back in the day separated everybody. That's just me. That's my flesh, my earthly, But he kept them together. And he was going to sell all that he had in order for the payment to be made. The servant fell on his knees, begging his king, his master, forgive me, I will pay you everything. And so out of the pity for him, the master of the servant released him and forgave his debt. That's pretty big. To forgive that much, I can only imagine, let's say $100,000. Anybody willing to forgive someone $100,000? I was about to say, no one's hand better be raised. Y'all lying if you're going to forgive $100,000. I would not. That's a lot of money. That's almost a mortgage, half mortgage. Man, I'm trying to get my house paid for, right? I don't know if I could forgive someone for that, but he did. So that same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, pay me what you owe. First of all, you were just forgiven for this whole big, massive debt that you had. And then you're going to go out to your boy and say, hey, you owe me $100. And then begin to choke him out. That's not okay. This is not okay. Again, I probably would do it, but man, I was fleshly. Y'all did not want to see BC Cory. I wasn't brutal, but man, I was vindictive. I was going to get you back one way or another. Right? Y'all laugh, I'm serious. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me and I will pay you back. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. His fellow servants saw this and went back to the master and told the master what they saw. The master summoned him and said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave all your debt because you pleaded with me. And should you not have mercy on your fellow servant as I would have mercy on you? And in anger, his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. So that's the willingness in this step that he's talking about. You know who else paid a massive debt for you? Jesus. Paid it all. I don't know about you, but I've done some pretty messed up things in my life. And I can sit here and tell you, earthly, it's I've stolen, I've lied, I've forged, but I've never killed anybody. Bro, sin is sin. It just doesn't matter. You see, in the eyes of the Lord, lying and killing, same thing. It goes against God. And I don't know about you guys, I've gone against God I don't know how many times. It doesn't work out. It just doesn't. And I've read the end of this book. We were talking about it back there. I know who wins. I like to win. I don't know about you guys, but I like to win. I'm a little competitive depending on what game we're playing. Life, super competitive, right? But you have to fight your earthly and fleshly desires. You have to fight BCU on a daily basis, right? Because if you don't, you're going to harbor unforgiveness in your heart, and then you're not going to be willing to go make amends to people. And if you're unwilling, I hate to say it to you, but I think God's going to be unwilling too. You see, he's forgiven you because he's not harboring anything against you. And if God's not harboring anything against you, what right do you have to harbor anything against anyone else? You know, people are people, and they need grace just as much as you and I do. I don't know about you, I need tons of grace and a buttload of mercy. Because without that, guys, I'd be 6 feet under or in jail. I'm sure a lot of you all feel the same way too. I want to challenge y'all tonight. That person that's popped in your head, I really need you to focus on him or her. I really need you to start praying, hey, what am I holding against this person and why? Why am I holding this angst against them, this unforgiveness, this hatred? Start praying for them. No matter if you want them dead or not. Because I tell you, at the end of that prayer, if you do it for 30 days, it changes. You know how I know? I've done it. You see, I'm not going to ask you guys to do anything that I haven't done. And I'm telling you, I prayed against this person. She was an ex of mine, and I just wanted her to die. I did. She like broke my heart. Anybody been there? Broken heart? Yeah. I was like, God, just vipers. When she's camping, just let her, just slow death. She deserves it. I'm over here dying. By the end of that 30 days, I'm like, God, I want you to bless her. I want her to prosper. I want her to forgive and be forgiven. I want her to have an abundance of life. I want her to be surrounded by a community of people like you've put around me. I want her to experience the love and a double portion of what you've bestowed upon me. I want her to find someone that's going to love her like you love me. She has. I keep up with her. Social medias can be a great thing. We talk from time to time. She's doing fantastic. She thinks I'm a little crazy getting married and having 5 kids. I tell her she's right sometimes. You got to be a little crazy to get married and have 5 kids. But I am a blessed man. A blessed man. So as you make that list, and you start working through it, regardless if you're in the 12 steps or not, I encourage you, it's going to be beneficial for any kind of life application that you want to do. You see, it gets mixed up all the time that 12 steps is just this thing for addicts and alcoholics. I'm telling you right now, you could put life applications through the 12 steps and the 8 principles all day long. If you don't believe me, go through it. I was telling the group in the booth, I've gone through the 12 steps 4 times. 3 normal times, and then a 4th I focused on a topic in the 12 steps. Doing a focused 12 steps, that's a whole different ballgame. I focused on relationships. Figured out I sucked at them. But because I've done that, because of my walk with God, I'm able to have relationships and understand what a relationship is, why I need a relationship. I've walked through church. I went to a private school. I didn't have a relationship. It was all a textbook. It was all rules and regulations. When I stepped into this church back in 2014, my relationship started. And I've been pushed to grow that relationship ever since. I want to push you guys during that relationship. That's what it is. Guys, if you don't have it, here in just a few seconds, we're going to walk through a prayer so y'all can have that relationship with Jesus Christ. So important. It'll be the best relationship you've ever had. And you're like, I've not had one. Game changer right here. Game changer right here. You see, if you give as much grace and mercy to other people that you've been given, you're going to be able to change your world around you. You're going to love God more. By loving God more, you're going to be able to love people more. By loving people, you're going to discover that you have a purpose. Because everyone in this room has a purpose. There's a plan for your life. You got to step into that. When you step into that, you're going to win your world around you. I don't know about you guys, but I want to win my world around me. And then if you didn't catch those 4 things, these are Faith Promise's new values. And so if you came this weekend, Zach unpacked the first one, love God. Let me encourage you to come the next 3 weekends as he unpacks, love people, discover your purpose, and win your world around you. It's going to be phenomenal. I am so excited what Faith Promise is doing and the next steps that we are taking to move the kingdom forward, to move our followers, right? To build the kingdom, to do greater things. Not just here in Tennessee, but around the world. I want to leave you with this. Don't hold on to toxic feelings expecting the other person to change your world. Put in the time, and God's going to put in the work. God's going to put in the work.